I'm Minna, and my father was in the RAF during the Second World War, and he landed on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day +3. My dad's name was Albert George Russell. So he was a wireless operator, and his job in Normandy when he landed on the beaches that early on in the invasion, was to effectively set up an advanced fighter control. So he was an expert in Morse code. He would be intercepting messages and relaying coordinates of the enemy aircraft that were identified to our fighters. And that worked so successfully that they had their first kill on D-Day +1. As a result of that, obviously that was the advance party. That was the first wave of the 2nd Tactical Air Force that went in. My dad was second wave, like I say, 3 days later. Apart from, I have to say, the D-Day era of his service, his experience in the war really was, a huge impact on his life. He was quite an, average background, working class background. And just the opportunity to travel and be involved in something so important and to learn such important skills really set him up for the rest of his life, really, and gave him that resilience and pride throughout his lifetime and the courage to just throw himself into new things. The only time he really clammed up was over the D-Day era, shall we say, which is why I've had to do quite a lot more research to actually find out the part he played. So I conducted the research into my dad's service because I'm so proud of him, clearly. I actually have a big family history in the military. My granddad, Russell, was in the army during the First World War. My granddad, Wiltshire, was in the army during the Second World War. Clearly my dad served in the Second World War. It was really important for me to understand what he'd experienced. So one particular moment that my dad did tell us about, D-Day and Normandy, was that he witnessed Spitfires landing with beer barrels strapped to the wings, which might seem unusual, but it was seen as an important part of morale and life support for the servicemen and women that were already there. So during that research, I found out that he'd actually received commando training. Now, there were telltale signs of this throughout my childhood and talking to him, and he tried to teach us some unarmed combat moves now and again. But I thought that was normal for an RAF serviceman at the time, and of course they were going into war. And it was only during the research that I found out that it was very specific to those that were landing on the beaches during Normandy to actually prepare them and give them a chance at survival. So another interesting fact is that my dad didn't land on the beaches in RAF uniform. And this is because they'd immediately before the landings realised that when the RAF uniforms made contact with the salt water, they turned a shade of Luftwaffe grey. So that's why they begged, borrowed and stole a Canadian and American uniform. So he actually landed, I think, wearing a Canadian jacket. I honestly doubt he could have known what to expect, and I think that's a common theme that you hear from a lot of people. But to realise that my dad, had a very high chance of not making it through that episode of his career in the war is just enormously affecting. And to realise, that me and my 3 siblings have come out of that, married my mum. And it's just remembering everything that's come out of that and the fact that his part in the war gave us and our country and Europe and America and Australia the freedom that it enjoys today. So I'm just incredibly proud of my dad and his fellow servicemen and women and the courage that they've shown to just achieve everything that we have today, really. And it's not just about remembering those that made the ultimate sacrifice and died for our country, but also just the dedication of all those service men and women who have served and are now serving. I just find that hugely inspiring. I just find remembrance all the more poignant, to be honest, and to have really, I felt it already, but to really visit the places where he was in Normandy and to see the reality of that has just been hugely affecting on me. And I go to the Cenotaph every year. My husband's ex-RAF avionics engineer. He marches at the Cenotaph every year, and just to stand there and really feel that, and the pride I have in my father, the pride I have in my husband, the pride I have in my grandfathers, is just incredible.